Utley back in the lineup. You've been around him here. I guess this has been a tough week for him, but how do you think this mental break has been for him?
Well, I think that remains to be seen, Mike. I think it was necessary for sure, and I think that Chase would tell you the same thing. But it remains to be seen whether it's going to be helpful. The good news is that for whatever reason, he has some terrific numbers against Matt Harvey. He sees the ball very well for whatever reason out of his hands. So hopefully, he can get some things going tonight against him, and maybe that is the beginning of starting to turn things around. But the break was not unexpected. It was absolutely necessary at this point. He's really been struggling, and we try to look at the positives, and then he's hit some balls hard, and then Ryan Sandberg has talked about running into some bad luck. However, you can only put so much of that to bad luck. He just doesn't seem to be swinging the bat the way that we're used to. So, I can tell you this: the 2 days that he had off, he continued to be a very positive influence in the dugout. And I saw him on a couple of different occasions pulling guys aside and just talking to them specifically about the guys who are on the mound in Atlanta and what they have to offer. And so he's still very engaged in the game, even when he's not playing the game, which is very typical of Chase Utley. So, but it would be nice to see him to swing the bat well tonight.
Yeah, one thing you wonder is he in good spirits? Here's a guy hitting 103 who's used to a lot of success, and the team is struggling. Now he's sitting down. You wonder, is he just kind of sitting there questioning himself, or does he seem like a guy who acknowledges that he needs this time off?
I think he has acknowledged the fact that the time off, and he didn't say that to me, so I'm speculating, but I think he did understand that it was probably the best thing for everybody involved to just get him off his feet for a couple of days. He ended up having 3 full days off because of the off day yesterday. So, is he in good spirits? He is. He absolutely is. And it's something that Ryan Sandberg talked about, I think it was, earlier in the week on Wednesday when he made the decision, or Tuesday when he made the decision, that, if there's one thing that Chase doesn't do is that he doesn't take his frustrations with him when he sits down back in the dugout. And he has been. I sit in the dugout. I watch it. He's up and down. He's talking to guys. He's pointing things out. He's that extra coach in the dugout, the way he's always been. And I think that's a pretty good sign that he's not kind of, moping around and looking and saying, woe is me, even though that's been obviously the toughest start to any season he's ever experienced. So.
Yeah, Gregg Murphy's with us. The Phillies take on the Mets tonight. It'll be a great pitching matchup. Harvey against Hamels. We'll get into that in just a second. One thing, I want to get your take on this road trip here. And obviously, a 10-game road trip is tough at any time. But what were some of the things that you observed as positives maybe coming home now for this team? I see a lot of young players. You see Ben Revere really turning it on a little bit. You see more playing time for Herrera. And then obviously, you're starting to see some other younger players get some more opportunities out there, and we saw Ruffy in the 3-hole a little bit there over that road trip. So, what are some of the things that you observed on that road trip, Murph?
Well, I think you touched on a lot of them. I thought it was great to see Darren Ruff get an opportunity to play 3 games in a row, and to kind of, baseball's a sport where you need reps, and you need to be hitting off live pitching. Now, look, if you're a bench player in the big leagues, then you need to be a bench player in the big leagues, and you need to be ready to go when the time comes. But that said, it certainly is nice when you get an opportunity to 2 or 3 games in a row and get 12 at-bats and know that you're going to be in the lineup the next day. And I think we saw Darren get that opportunity, and for the most part, take advantage of it. He certainly had some base hits, he had some big hits, and then he had his moments where he struggled as well. So, but just getting a chance to watch him play on an everyday basis, I thought was a positive. Herrera continues to impress. He leads rookies in virtually all offensive categories in the National League, and that's exciting stuff. That's fun to watch. And you're right, Ben Revere seemed to turn the switch after a really slow start. He has started to come on. He had the one game where he had 4 hits, 3 of them doubles, 3 of them extra base hits, and that's the kind of thing that you want to see out of Ben Revere. Some stolen bases, making some things happen on the base paths. It didn't translate into wins for the most part. As a whole, the team is still struggling, but there were some bright spots, and I think the one other one would be Severina Gonzalez. After just a dreadful first outing, he came back and he bounced back, and he seemed to really command the baseball much better in his second outing, and he really looked like the player that we heard about in the scouting reports, because he certainly did not look that way in the first game that he started, but he did look a lot better in the second. And so maybe it was nerves, maybe it was just an overwhelming level of adrenaline that caused him to really struggle in that first outing. He's going to get another opportunity, so that remains to be seen, but we'll see.
Gregg Murphy's with us, part of the Phillies broadcast team. Ryan Howard, first 3-hit game of the season. He's up to 220, and then people would say 220, but he was under 200, starting to hit the ball with a little bit more authority and power. Are you noticing a different Ryan Howard?
Well, I think he's starting to swing the bat much better. And Matt Stairs, who has been doing the games over the last couple of days, has insisted this entire season, and I haven't always agreed with him, that all Ryan had to do was just simply pick better pitches to be swinging at. And if he was able to do that his bat speed was still there. And I think, as the road trip continued, he loves to play in St. Louis, and he continued to play well in his hometown. And then he has tortured the Atlanta Braves over the course of his career. And I think, having those series together in a road trip, we got to see Ryan Howard feel very comfortable and do some good things. The power was there. He was hitting home runs. He was knocking runs in. Now he has to bring it back home and continue to do it. You mentioned the batting average. He'll be the first to tell you that 220 is not going to cut it for this season. But if he could get it up to around 250, 260, and give you those power numbers that we saw flashes of, then I think you could start to say, all right, well maybe the report of his demise was a little bit too soon.
Yeah, and that would be a big positive for him, because obviously, this has been a tough start for the team, and as two of these older guys are struggling, who have been here for so long and had such great careers, if Howard can kind of pull it out of this and salvage something, he's looked a lot better here. Gregg Murphy's with us as we take a look at this Phillies team. Cole Hamels will go tonight against Matt Harvey, two of probably the best pitchers in the National League East, and you've been around Hamels all year long, and, he hasn't been dominating, hasn't been awful, but just kind of somewhere in the middle. Do you get a sense that once July 31st comes around, he'll feel a lot better, whether it's here, there, or somewhere?
Well, I think, when you talk about human nature and, Cole's a competitor, no doubt about it. And we've seen that both on the field, and we've seen that off the field, and some of the things that he has said over the past couple of years. The guy wants to win, and I don't begrudge him for that. And I think he's going out there with the idea each and every time he takes the baseball that he's going to win that game. For whatever reason, it hasn't been the case each and every time he's gone out. But I do think that you're going to see a little bit of a step up tonight when he goes across, takes the rubber and is staring across at Matt Harvey in the other dugout, because you talk about a guy that not only has had a terrific beginning of the season, Matt Harvey, but a guy that's getting all kinds of attention for being one of the best pitchers in the National League, as you mentioned. So I think his competitive juices are going to start flowing a little bit earlier tonight, and, hopefully it translates into good things on the mound.
We sure hope so for Cole, and to turn some things around for him. How about Jonathan Papelbon? I know we talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and he is still pitching very well. I heard Buster Olney last night mention that teams are taking notice of him. They think that this is the best they've ever seen him pitch, and it has a lot to do because he's learned how to pitch more because he doesn't throw quite as hard. What are you seeing from Papelbon? Is this a guy that has matured a little bit over his time here?
No doubt. That's exactly what's happened. And I agree with Olney in that, this is a guy, and it started last season when a power pitcher like Jonathan Papelbon, who just dominated with stuff in the early part of his career, starts to, notice a tick or two less in the velocity. One of two things can happen. You can shrug your shoulders and try to throw the ball past guys and get hit, or you can learn what you have and what works and what gets guys out. And Jonathan Papelbon, for all of his, quirkiness, he is a student of the game, and he is a competitor, and he has figured out that he can get guys out with whether it be, the slider or the slurve or whatever it is that he's throwing nowadays, and guys are still chasing it. He's able to hit his spots. He's able to mix things up and keep guys off balance. And he continues to be one of the best closers in all of baseball, even without that power stuff. And he can still hump it up there when he has to. But, on a consistent basis, he has really figured out how to pitch. And it's only going to extend his career. I think he's 2 saves away of becoming the Phillies' all-time leader in saves, which would make him the all-time leader in 2 different franchises. Wow. Which is I believe has only happened one other time in baseball history. So, Jonathan Papelbon is a terrific closer and continues to be. He hasn't gotten a whole lot of opportunities this year, but when he has gotten the opportunities, he's taken advantage of them.
Gregg Murphy and the Phillies broadcast team. It's Hamels and Harvey tonight, which means you should be able to get out of there hopefully pretty early. Should be a good pitching duel. And we'd like to see you finish one of these 9-pound patties. We saw you hosting the 9-pound patties, but I want to see you eat one of the 9-pound. Your sons did it, but you wouldn't get involved.
Well, so yeah, and partly because I don't eat meat, but that was one of the main reasons that I didn't go about doing that. However, we were represented, the Murphy family. My boys are 13 and 11, and they attacked it with some veracity. So it was pretty awesome. But no one could touch Jim Salisbury, who just put on a clinic.
He looked like he was having fun.
I really believe he could have topped it off with a couple of nuggets or something else to eat, some fries on the side, because he did it without a sweat. It was pretty impressive.
All right, the Phillies and the Mets tonight at Citizens Bank Park. The Comcast Sportsnet broadcast team will have that 7:05. Harvey and Hamels. Thanks, Murph. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, Mike. Good talking to you.
You got it, man. And Gregg Murphy here on the Sports Bash to take a look.